Alright, yeah, another edition of What the Fuck happenings I don't know, around YouTube-ish. From inmendham, like perspective. Sorry, fiddling with the lens. So, anyway, this is the retry of the video. Well, anyway. I made a video, but it was just, I don't have to not publish videos too often, but yeah, it was just a piece of shit. Anyway, I got this gimbal thing that keeps the camera steady. Totally didn't work for that purpose. Kept making a noise and it was jittery and it was just horrible. Anyway, have to work on that. So that was kind of ironically failure. So that's a good way to start the year anyways, with a little bit of a failure. Keeps you humble and such. So, and the video was just horribly distracting and rambly because of all that. Just, it was kind of like this crap. Just wasn't getting to the point. So, I think we'll just cut this one short and just get it over with because, yeah, I'm just in one of those places where, hard to figure out what goes on in the world and people and what works and what doesn't work and communicating with people and, but it's just that whole thing that we really somehow, we all fall into this adventure in similar ways, and yet we turn into entirely different animals in a sense. And it does seem quite curious, the breadth of the divergence from any common perspective. And yeah, so the distracting news of the week was finding out that Vox Neruda had died. And he was only a couple of years older than me. But the last couple of years he really did kind of deteriorate physically. He's quite gaunt and, you knew something wasn't right. And so it wasn't totally unexpected. And but it's just, life just comes down to this. One day you're here and the next day, people show up at your house a few days after you're dead to see if you're dead, and you're dead. And, and they tear down your house and, grind into the soil all of your inspirations and thoughts and art. And it's all quite horrible. But we know that. At least I do. So yeah, it's just kind of dismal. But anyway, so yeah, that's news. And then on the brighter side, the Glinos did do a Christmas video, We Are the World kind of anti-natalism video. It was really somewhat funny, yes, in the funny kind of way. So link below to that. Very good. And yeah, but it is just kind of a, looks a little too much like a cult. Needs a little more something, and so forth and whatnot. But I guess that's the way it always starts. It's just seems all so simple and obvious, and I just don't understand why I have to do all this. This is just, people are just so obnoxious. So the videos of the week were mostly on, a little bit on physics and, arguing with Piro and Hoffladay, who, I've certainly had my fill of. Can't even get anywhere close to the subjects. Not even a little bit close. Hoffladay was dragging muons and taus and quarks into the two-slit experiment. Just kind of there's just no point. Anyway, and then Piro's made a lot of accusations. I don't feel any need to go through them all and all that kind of shit. There's just no point. Made some crack about Huygens that I thought was kind of funny, like you know, that I didn't know. I mean, I had read the Huygens page a while back, and I mentioned it somewhere in there that he visited Newton once. You know, I guess, you know, Newton was a bit older. But he was just, you know, some rich guy who made clocks, basically. But my only point with Huygens is that he was the wave guy. I mean, it was all about these stupid waves, and waves are not what light is. It's stupid. You know, none of it's waves. I mean, waves are something that happens in thick mediums that have molecular tension. They just don't happen in anything else. There's just no such thing. But anyway, that's a whole other blah blah blah. Won't bother wasting time with that crap in this video. But it is on my mind, so I guess I should mention it, just because I do have to argue this stuff, and it's just a strange context. You know, Piero played a video by the Ken Wheeler guy, the photographer, angry photographer guy, and, you know, they're just such silly videos. You know, he's debunking particle theory by insulting the guy who invented the word photon, and it's just like, yeah, wow, yeah, you sure beat us with that rational argument. But it's just so funny that we're, you know, Ken Wheeler guy is arguing against conventional physics, and it seems to me that conventional physics is saying pretty much what he wants, what he believes, which is that everything is just wavy nonsense. And so it's just kind of ironic that particle physics is sort of not conventionally appreciated at all, realistically. They've quantized. The quantum means microwave. It doesn't mean micro thing. It doesn't mean fundamental particle. It means fundamental wave function. I don't know. And it doesn't even get to that, so there's no point anyway. Alright, enough of that. Sorry. Yeah, I'm just really hard to get going. Been fiddling with a lot of different things, so I'm just kind of tired. You know, and failing at making videos and such. So anyway, but the real philosophical argument is just this simple one, you know, where you're just arguing that there's a few ideas. And once you have these ideas or this knowledge, it's kind of a dramatic thing, in the sense it's like knowing that plague is contagious or something. So let's say somebody has smallpox and you don't have knowledge that it's contagious, that it can kill you. Well, you're going to behave completely different than if you know it can kill you. Then you're going to be really careful, and maybe you're going to run away and just say fuck that. So knowledge is incredibly powerful when it comes to how we behave. And so no matter what our compulsions are, I mean, like I said, if you have knowledge that you know, eggs can have salmonella in them, you know, you wouldn't be eating the raw eggs, and kind of thing. Even if you had a desire, you know, even if we were really horny for it, I mean, if you knew, you know, that's what the consequence was going to be, likely, you wouldn't mess with it. And much of what restrains us, I think, is that kind of knowledge. If you don't really believe something's bad, then you might, you know, exercise your right to exploit or something, if you thought you had such a right. So that's why I'm saying it's, you know, it's the internal organs of somebody's brain does less damage to people than Nietzsche, than some asshole who gives people philosophical license and a bunch of cheap and lazy rhetoric, you know, to be bugs. And you could argue that the simpletons like Trump do the same thing, and, you know, all these people with simple answers to complex problems, people who have, you know, Stefan Molyneux types who have a, you know, a little bit of art with language, and they just use it to pervert statistics and, you know, play games with the truth. So anyway, the bottom line is look, it's pretty simple. You know, once you kind of understand that it's like being in, like, say there was still slavery and you're living in the plantation and you have a nice comfortable life, And you sort of end up doing the Buddha thing, where you start looking outside how other people live, and you say, gee, you know, I didn't really earn this better life. I mean, I'm all clean and nice, and I have people, they clean up my poo for me, they do everything for me. And these other people have to basically live in shit and, you know, work themselves to death and get old before their time and all that kind of shit. And just, I didn't earn anything. I just fell into the right house, and they fell into the wrong house. You know, the stork dropped me. And that might give them pause to say, gee, that's kind of a nothing thing, and doesn't take much intelligence to sit there and say, you know, I'm a feeling sensitive organism, and these other people are. I mean, how much brains does that take? And then ultimately you kind of get the perspective that, you know, what this exploitation thing, you know, you look out the back window and you see the slaves and you're getting whipped, and you say, there's nothing that prevents me from falling into that circumstance after I'm dead, so to speak. The next arrival after I'm dead, we could call that me, is just going to be, it's going to fall into that house and live that life. And right there, I think you're done. You're terrified. You realize you're at jeopardy. You've sort of put your face on the thing being tormented, and that's sort of what my definition of empathy is. Empathy is a kind of self-identification. You identify with the circumstance and recognize it for what it is, bad, and it becomes more personal when you recognize that you don't escape it, but not by not being it. It's like it doesn't not happen because you're not doing it. If somebody else is doing it, that means a someone is doing it, and all the someones, like I said, there's no evidence of the super someone. That's another thing where, you know, people just play with the words. So if I was to argue that there are people who are exceptional at something, I'm not saying they're entitled to more happiness because of it. You know, Pierrot's played this game where, yeah, I would certainly say I'm smarter than he is. I'm smarter than anybody on the planet. Who cares if I can say it, even if I believe that sincerely. Doesn't mean I'm saying I'm entitled. Doesn't mean I'm saying I'm entitled to feel better than anybody else. There's nothing in my rhetoric that would indicate I have any sense that that's true. So it's just such a pile of shit. But anyway, so I mean, you know, just kind of frustrating because, you know, there's the nihilists who just obliterate all meaning, and then the Pollyannas like Pierrot who have no practical understanding of anything in the physical universe. And then you got this new version of it, which is the naturalist types who are, I guess, more closely related to a Nietzsche type, who just can't see any function in us besides these desires and drives and compulsions. And it's as if we have absolutely no control whatsoever. You know, we can't moderate any of it ever. And of course we can. You know, I mean, the nicotine addiction thing. Some, you know, commenters are annoying too. Some asshole commented on my video, "Why don't you vape?" I've been doing it for 7 years or 6 years or whatever the fuck it is. It's just, yeah. But whatever. But see, you moderate. You come up with some way to satisfy your compulsions, taking the negative part out. So let's say you're a pedophile, then you go watch porn or something. You do something harmless. And it's just kind of, you know, that's one of those things that's kind of ironic where they've passed a bunch of laws against that, which is just so stupid, in my opinion. It's not that there shouldn't be laws against making porn, but I just this idea of trying to prevent people from seeing it is just really stupid, in my opinion. I don't think it creates the monster. You know, it's just kind of silly to think the image creates the monster when the monster is seeking the image. It's like we make beauty by observing it in a museum. No, we don't. We were horny for it before we got there, kind of a thing. But anyway, just people are so stupid. So I don't know if I need to beat this to death. I mean, I've done so many videos on it, but you know, there's a few more comments. I'll probably read them and do a video, and you know, say that's got to be enough. But I just think it's silly to think that we don't. Ideas are just so powerful, and if you're identifying with the things that are victimized in the world, in the sense that you can recognize that there's nothing preventing you from being that thing, so to speak, you know, you know, in the sense that a consciousness will occupy it in the future. When you're not conscious, something else is going to be. You know, I just don't know how to quite put it to be able to understand that you're not escaping because your consciousness is protected. It's just not a rational thing to believe. And once you know that's the truth of the circumstance, that you are feeling the victim's pain in a way. You're just not personally feeling it. It's getting felt, though. I mean, it's just so obvious. And once you have that knowledge, you just can't make victims. Not willfully. You know, we all make rationalizations and excuses, but your addictions and compulsions and desires are not going to be powerful enough to overwhelm your knowledge that you just can't win playing the game that way, in any real sense of winning. I didn't say this exactly as well as I wanted to, but I'm just saying it's like knowledge of disease or knowledge of threat. I mean, once you have knowledge, you're just not going to play with it. And knowledge is the power. So I'm always going to say that people who are unethical, either in a legally criminal way or just in a generic way, are so because they're stupid, because they really don't understand that there's no free victims. It's no free lunch. Just can't do it. Can't work. Can't make sense logically. And that should be the prohibition. What you do unto others, you do unto yourself, in a sense. Very real sense. A very logically sensible sense. We're all just buckets of water in the Great Lakes. You can't pollute, you know, the other buckets. It's the same difference as polluting yourself. It doesn't matter. Come up with better analogies, I guess. So anyway, we'll cut this short, as I'm tired, and I've already made a failed video, so it's a little more discouraging. But anyway, so I hope to do better, and we'll see. So yeah. So till next time. I really didn't say that much in the other video. It just took me forever to say it, and I was distracted by trying to get the camera thing to work, and yeah, it was just terrible. And the sound quality was awful, and you really wouldn't have liked it. So anyway, till next time and such.